Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 16th, 2022 meeting of the Gaithersburg Planning Commission. Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Everyone as well tonight. First up on the agenda, we don't have any minutes tonight, so the first item that's up is the consent agenda. And there's one item for AFP-9412-2022, an outdoor dining for Charley Prime pergola, 9811 Washingtonian Boulevard in the MXD zone, amendment to final site plan. Any questions on the consent agenda?
It's a great application, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, that's nice.
Okay.
They just keep improving the Rio.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's really great stuff.
Great point. All right, if there's no questions, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. And then that takes us to, we have a resolution tonight for ASDP-9338-2022, Watkins Milltown Center Urban Core to reallocate 100,950 square foot of office density and 62,694 square feet of retail density between previously approved buildings B1, B2, B3, C1, C2, C3, and C5 in the MXD Mixed Use Development Zone. This is an amendment to the schematic development plan. Looks like Jasmine, you're going to set it up for us tonight. Good evening.
Yes, good evening. So this is a policy discussion on application ASDP-9338-2022. As shown on the screen, the applications for the properties located at the Watkins Mill Center Urban Core. The applicant filed an application to amend schematic development plan SDP-05-002 to reallocate 100,950 square feet of office density and 62,494 square feet of retail density between previously approved buildings in the urban core. Initially, the applicant had planned to construct buildings C2 and C3, and that increase of the building footprints will eliminate C1 and C4. So after the public hearing, the applicant submitted revised plans to include the flexibility to construct C1 and C4 if need be. So the revised plan shows building restriction lines and note height restrictions for each building that's in compliance with sketch plan Z-297. This revision does not change the reallocation of office and retail density and the parking as proposed. A public hearing was held on September 7th, 2022. During the course of the hearing, there were comments about pedestrian connection from the garage to the rest of the urban core and elevating the pedestrian realm along the first 20 feet of the building. At the conclusion of the hearing, the Planning Commission announced the closing of the record on October 13th, 2022 with final action on October 19th. After a meeting with the applicant and stormwater management staff, it was determined that the associated preliminary stormwater management plan will not be approved by the October 19th meeting. The Planning Commission reopened the record until October 27th with final action on November 2nd. And at that meeting, the application was deferred until this evening, November 16th. The applicant has received preliminary stormwater management approval. There was one outside correspondence that was submitted while the record remained open. The applicant has submitted a response letter and exhibits, which are labeled Exhibits 33 to 35. And I will go into detail on the applicant's responses to comments raised at the public hearing. First were comments about the pedestrian connection. To address these comments, the applicant has provided an exhibit that shows a proposed pedestrian connection from the garage to the urban core. And as shown on the screen, the pedestrian paths are shown in red. So in response, the applicant notes that one potential solution, which includes a pass-through in both buildings. Pedestrians can enter through an interior connection passing through a public portion of the building lobby to access the remainder of the urban core. And to emphasize, and so here's the close-up of the building, and here's an exhibit that shows the overall pedestrian connection. To emphasize the pass-through locations and draw pedestrian foot traffic, the building will be programmed with an exterior canopy at the entrance. And this connection will be consistent with previously approved schematic development plan SDP-05-002. In response to the building architecture, the applicant intends to place the retail and social program elements adjacent to the pedestrian connections to activate the ground level experience. and the building will be clad in storefront glass and expanded sidewalks. In conclusion, staff is supportive of amendment to schematic development plan ASDP-9338-2022 and is of the opinion that they have adequately addressed the commission's comments. The plan is in conformance with approved sketch plan Z-297, and the plan will be the first development within the urban core, which was envisioned to contain office and retail uses. The plan advances the overall vision for this area by providing a vibrant and walkable mixed-use community. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have this evening, and we also have the project team here also.
Great, thanks, Jasmine. Any questions? Our record's closed, right, so we're really just clarifying issues on the presentation, or the answers, anything?
I just want to make sure I'm clear and everyone is clear. What we are approving, this modification, this ASDP, is really about the planning level reallocation of retail versus office. It's not about building massing. It's not about the architecture. It's not about all the things that I think all of us would love to dive in and sink our teeth in. We're talking about, from a high level planning perspective, where the various uses are allocated.
Yep, that's correct. So the ASDP is more of just reallocating office and retail density, and just as part of his application, the applicant provided preliminary architecture. So when it comes to final site plan, that's when we'll look into the architecture further.
Okay, great. Anything else? Any concerns? I don't have any concerns. I think thank you for answering the questions with some sort of focused, not only response, but updates to the drawings. I guess I'm curious, this is maybe not, be careful, I don't want to try to put anything on the record, but in proposing the pedestrian connections through the central parts of the Phase 1 and Phase 2 buildings, is it assumed that those are going to be interior connections, not like open air kind of passages under the building? Is that the idea?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. So at some point in the future, the tenant may require some level of security at those pass-throughs, or can we somehow guarantee that those will continue to be public over the course of the... You follow me? I mean, I know that kind of gets into the architectural thing, but at a high level, since that was a concern, and then the answer was we're going to have pedestrian connections, is it assumed that those will remain truly public, or could it be that a tenant will require that to be secured, and we can't assume it'll always be open to
I think
public access?
the intent for the pass-through to provide pedestrian that cut through,
Okay.
instead of having it go walk feet.
I guess maybe be very specific. It's pedestrian, but is it public?
Yeah, that's the intent, to make it public.
Okay, all right. Good. Anything else? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add that, thank you for the responsiveness, and that there is some little details like that we'll make sure we all agree in detail later.
Right.
But since we're really talking about the sort of exchange of uses across the site, just to respond to some of the neighborhood concerns and our concerns that we brought up at the last meeting, which is really, the mixed use thing is missing here, right? From the neighborhood goods and services are missing from the neighborhood, so a lot of that is really immediately attributable to just feet on the street traffic and demand. So if we can, I really think this big an office building should it get populated with people who actually work there, will progenerate that retail piece that's in the middle, which is in my mind also probably where it should be anyway. It doesn't offend me greatly that there isn't very much retail on these two bars. It is different than our original vision, though. So that to me is the sort of the big question now in moving these uses is our hope, our aspiration for the second bar, which isn't under control of really kind of the applicant tonight, but that next bar, we're going to have to be a little stiffer of spine to make sure that it includes some of that neighborhood goods and services.
And hopefully this will be part of, I think what you're leading to is this will be a demand generator in and of itself for some of those services or some of those amenities, and maybe spur that on a bit.
That next bar is running out of excuses as to why not to build retail.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, anything else? All right, so recommendation is to move forward with the consent, or excuse me, with the resolution.
So staff recommends that the Planning Commission, based on the evidence and testimony submitted to the record and the findings in the final staff analysis, approve amendment to schematic development plan ASDP 9338-2022 and adopt the resolution with one condition.
Any questions on the recommendation? Is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move that the Planning Commission, based on the evidence and testimony submitted to the record and the findings in the final staff analysis, approve amendment to schematic development plan ASDP 9338-2022 and adopt the resolution with the one condition.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you very much all for being here. You brought the whole team out for a relatively straightforward step in the process. So good luck. Thank you for being here. All right, that takes us to, from the commission. Sharon, may I start with you? Thank you, by the way, for being on the dais this evening and participating. I didn't make that formal announcement for the record, but
Yeah, I was going to say that, but you were already launched right into it.
yeah, kind of overlooked
okay.
that. But with
It's okay.
video and note taking and everything else, it's going to be perfectly apparent to everyone
It will be, I'm sure.
involved. Yeah.
No, fine. No, nothing for me?
Okay,
Nothing for me
Go.
this evening?
Matt.
Nope, nope.
I will mention briefly, and it's a little early to be totally sure of a mid to long-term outcome, but we did have, unfortunately, a tragic event today in the city
Mhm.
with the explosion that happened in one of our neighborhoods. And I think in just general terms, we should just take a moment to remember and hope and pray that everyone who is injured will recover quickly. Those without homes will be in shelters soon, and hopefully no further bad news comes from the event. But it's a long and nice neighborhood over there, and something like this is just it's a tragedy to see. And hopefully we understand what happened, and that the damage and the effects to the folks that live there doesn't get any worse than it is, and it's bad enough already. So I just wanted to mention that. And I'm sure our mayor and council, as well as our city services, are poised to help in any way they can as this rolls along and
participate in that.
Donna,
forensic
Frank, it looks like you've
infrastructure.
got
I
some
actually
bad-
work on the second floor, which is fairly close to the city manager's office, and just in discussion today, we have responded. We have a number of persons actually at the activity center now, because look, you had a lot of families. These buildings blew up, so they were saying, I believe, 10 to 12 persons injured, but anybody in those buildings have lost their home.
Yep.
And also looking at different ways to assist. I believe they're trying to coordinate, because we also know a lot of people want to help, so to try to get some information out as to the best way to help. But I know this has been a priority for the city manager. Today there were some meetings that were going to happen that had to get postponed because this is quite an emergency. And I also heard from Public Works there was a lot of impact there on staff to try to assist. So the city is jumping in, and Public Works is fairly close to where this happened, so they would have heard the explosion as well.
Yeah.
So the city is definitely stepping up to assist, and it is immediate day-to-day needs that people have, because for all their purposes, right at this moment, they've lost their entire home, whatever was in there, and for many of them, they did.
Yeah, that's really a shame. So, and I think it's fair to say that the city's website will probably continue to provide updates for the ways that we can help and things that might be needed for the recovery of that neighborhood. So, thanks for that. Greg, anything tonight?
Yes, a couple dates. So we have a number of joint work sessions and public hearings coming up on your agenda. The next one's this Monday, November 21st, and that's the continuation of the discussion on the housing element. The Lake Forest Mall sketch plan and rezoning application was submitted today formally.
Oh, good.
So that is currently under review with a joint public hearing scheduled for Monday, January 17th. And then there's also two additional work sessions coming up on the housing element again. These are Monday, January 23rd and February 27th. And then just a reminder, our next planning commission meeting is December 7th, and that is the last one of the year.
All right, thanks for that. Jasmine, thanks for being here. Anything to add to the updates from staff?
Nope, nothing at all.
Okay, thanks. If there's nothing else, have a good evening. We are adjourned.